Let's talk about the present subjunctive. We're going to use the present subjunctive to talk about our hopes and desires, our recommendations, our emotions, our doubts. It's a really exciting way to use Spanish. You can see in the little cartoon here that this man is saying, I don't want her to shout. This uses the present subjunctive with the verb shout. It is conjugated as grite instead of grita. So let's dive in further and figure out what's it all about. We're going to be talking about the sentence structure we use with the subjunctive, some conjugation basics, Weirdo, an acronym to help us remember the uses of the subjunctive, and we'll finish up with a discussion of subjunctive versus indicative, with some obvious and some not so obvious examples. First, let's go over 3 keys to using the subjunctive. Number 1, you're going to need a weirdo verb. Sometimes we call this the subjunctive trigger. Some examples: quiero, recomiendo, me gusta, espero, dudo, etc. These are mostly given here in the yo form, but of course you could use them as mis padres quieren or mi amiga recomienda. Second, we're going to need 2 different subjects. You look at our sentence at the bottom, quiero que estudies. The subject in the beginning of the sentence is yo, and the subject after the que is tu. Those are different people, which is really important when you're using the subjunctive. You're not talking about what you want to do, you're talking about what you want someone else to do. Finally, we're going to connect those 2 clauses together with the word que. If you look at this little picture, I think it's a great example of using the subjunctive. This young man, the son in the picture, may or may not be studying. We're not going to say he studies. We're going to say that his father wants him to study. And the subjunctive is all about what somebody wants or hopes or recommends that someone else does. But it's not saying the object reality that this boy studies, because that simply is not true, or at least we're not positive that it's true. So let's take a look at how to conjugate our verbs in the subjunctive. You'll notice in estudies, it's an es at the end. Surprising, because estudiar is an AR verb. If I said estudias, I would be saying, it is the truth, you study. But instead I'm saying I want you to study. So since there's some doubt as to whether or not you're actually studying, we're going to use a different conjugation. The conjugation for that part of the sentence after the que is going to be the one where we start with the yo, take off the o, and add the opposite ending. Go, go, go! So these AR verbs have e's in their endings, the ER and IR verbs have a's in their endings. Please note also that the yo form and the ella y usted form are exactly the same. This means that where you normally wouldn't probably clarify that you're writing the yo form of a verb in the present tense, you might want to put the yo in before your conjugated verb to make your sentence clear, so the person reading or listening to your sentence understands who your subject is after the que. Because we're going to start with the yo, we should talk about some common irregular yo forms in Spanish. Hago, caigo, digo, oigo, pongo, salgo, tengo, traigo, valgo, vengo. All of these verbs have a go at the end of them, and there's other irregularities also in the yo form of the present indicative. We also have stem changers, all kinds of things. So make sure that when you're using the subjunctive, you're keeping in mind some of those changes. Hacer, for example, is not considered an irregular verb in the subjunctive because it's following the pattern. Start with the yo form, hago, take off the o, and add your opposite endings. No hagas, no haga, no hagamos, etc. What about irregulars? Yes, of course we have irregulars in the subjunctive. We like to remember these by spelling out the word dishes. So if you just memorize the yo form, it's really easy to add an s, mos, or an n to create your other forms. So dar becomes de, ir is vaya, ser is sea, haber is haya. Haya can be used as a helping verb to create the present perfect of the subjunctive, but you can also use just haya by itself to say there is, or there will be, or there are. Very similar to the word I in the present tense, which means there is, there are. It's just the subjunctive form of it. Estar becomes este, and saber is sepa. These are verbs that you have to memorize, and one of the things that will help you with memorizing these irregulars and other forms of the subjunctive is to go through your Quizlet sets. So make sure you check out those links on Classroom. Weirdo is an acronym that is often used to talk about the uses of the subjunctive. W is for wishes, what you wish, want, and request. E is for emotions, when you're not focused on just the action that happens, but you're focused on how you feel about that action. If it surprises you, if it worries you, if it makes you sad. And personal expressions use the verb es, meaning it is, plus an adjective, plus the que. So es importante que, es triste que, es interesante que, es mejor que, etc. We have recommendations, obviously the verb recomendar and other ways to say what you prefer that people do. We have doubt and denial, so we'll have verbs like dudar, to doubt. What you doubt is true, and what you're saying is not true. And finally, that little expression, ojalá. It's not actually a conjugated verb, it's just an expression that means hopefully. You could also use the verb esperar that means to hope. All of those are things that we would use with the subjunctive. And this little graphic at the right shows this guy who's sitting there thinking about what he wants someone else to do. So he wants that girl to send him a text. So in his objective world of reality, his thinking here of what he wants the girl to do is going to be in the present indicative. It's not the subjunctive ending. So our verbs we use to express these weirdo things, the subjunctive triggers, are still in the present indicative. If I would say he wants, I'm just going to say quiere with the normal E on the end of it for the present tense. Then we connect our idea together with the K. Él quiere que la chica le llame por teléfono. Lo llame por teléfono. Llame from the verb llamar. You're using it with an E at the end instead of an A. Because it's not actually saying she calls him. That's what he wants her to do. Okay? Lo llame. Quiere que lo llame. Alright, let's move on. Now we have some of our obvious uses of the subjunctive. We just said we can use that acronym weirdo to help us out. Here's some more examples of what that means. Mis profes quieren que yo venga a clase. Venga, that verb right there is in the subjunctive. Start with the O, take off the O, opposite ending. Why? Because it's not actually saying I come to class, it's saying that's what my teachers want me to do. In the second example, me sorprende que tengamos 3 pruebas esta semana. This is an interesting example because we can tell that probably it's true that we have 3 quizzes this week. But it's not stating that as the fact and focused on it as a fact. It's saying how I feel about it. So when we see that emotional reaction of some kind, for me it's surprising. For someone else they might say it's horrible. For someone else they're saying that they feel lucky that we have 3 quizzes this week. So because we color that action through our own emotions, we're going to use the subjunctive form of tener. In the next example, we have an impersonal expression, es importante que. What a basic one to have memorized and used all the time in the subjunctive. Es importante que, we have the ustedes together with the conjugated form escriban las respuestas correctas. Escribir with our opposite ending. Recomiendo que los jóvenes le hagan caso al profe. I recommend that the young people pay attention to the teacher. Hagan in the subjunctive because it's something I recommend. Not actually saying they pay attention to the teacher, but I recommend that they do. The next one, remember we have doubt, denial, and disbelief. So dudo que, very clear one to use with our doubt here. I doubt that all of the students are prepared. Dudo que todos los estudiantes estén preparados. Estén with the opposite ending, because I'm not saying all of the students are prepared. I'm saying that is what I doubt. If there's any degree of uncertainty, you're going to use the subjunctive in the place of estén. Finally, ojalá. Ojalá or espero. Ojalá que mis amigos puedan encontrar sus libros. Can my friends find their books? Who knows, but I'm saying hopefully that's what happens. Ojalá que puedan encontrar sus libros. Here's some obvious uses of the indicative. If those were the things, weirdo, that we use the subjunctive for, when do we not use the subjunctive? The indicative or present indicative is the kind of conjugating you did in Spanish 1 and all the way through Spanish. It is something that expresses certainty. Certainty defined here as a mental state of being without doubt. You are confident, you are assured. This is what is true. One use of the indicative is when there is no change in subject. Quiero sacar buenas notas, esperamos llegar a las 7. I want to get good grades, we hope to arrive at 7. Remember, one of those keys of the subjunctive is having 2 different subjects. In these, there's only one person involved. I'm the one who wants to get good notes. We're the ones who want to arrive at 7. Second, if you don't have a weirdo reason, you're not going to use a weirdo verb like the subjunctive. So, es obvio que, es verdad que, sabemos que are all ways to express that something is true. It's obvious, it's true, we know. So we're using tenemos, es, and ponen in the regular indicative. And finally, just simple statements of fact. Tengo mucha tarea, Susana es mi hermana, hace buen tiempo. These are things that are just being stated as a fact, so there's no need to use the subjunctive with them. Let's wrap it up by looking at some contrast between the subjunctive and the indicative. Over here on the indicative side, we see another review here of the weirdo acronym and how we can use it with different verbs to talk about our wishes, emotions, and personal expressions, recommendations, doubt, and ojalá. On the right-hand side for the indicative, we have certainty, There's no doubt. It's the truth. It's my belief. It is knowledge. It is 100% true. So, in the subjunctive, no creo que sea viernes hoy. I don't believe it's Friday today. Focus on that second part of the sentence there after the K. Is it Friday? No, that's in doubt, right? I don't believe so. On the other side, creo que. Creo que hoy es miércoles. Es is going to be used here in the indicative because it actually is Wednesday. How do I know it's Wednesday? Because that's what I believe. In Spanish, if I believe it or I think it, it's true. Very similar example with no pienso que Pepe esté en casa. I don't think Pepe's at home. Is Pepe at home? Oh look, that's in the subjunctive. That's because there's some doubt as to whether or not he's at home. On the other side for the indicative, pienso que Pepe está en la biblioteca. Is Pepe en la biblioteca? Yep, that's what I think, and so that makes it true. No es verdad que necesitemos el libro. It's not true that we need the book. Do we need the book? They're in the subjunctive, so it's either doubt, denial, disbelief. It's telling us that it's not true. When we say es verdad, then we're going to use the amos ending on necesitar. It is true that we need the packet. Dudo que el museo abra a las 8. I doubt that the museum opens at 8. Does the museum open at 8? Well, there's some degree of doubt. That's why we're using the subjunctive. Whereas when I say no dudo que, I'm saying I don't doubt it. In other words, it's 100% certain or true. No dudo que el museo abre a las 10. Abre in the present indicative. No es cierto que Jorge nos ayude. Does Jorge help us? No, it's not true. So that's one of our denial uses of the subjunctive. No es cierto que nos ayude. It's not certain, it's not true that he helps us. Es cierto que Jorge nos admira. Of course it is. Jorge admires us. Finally, es probable que means it's likely that Raúl saque buenas notas. Does he get good grades? Well, it may be likely, but that doesn't make it 100% true. So we are using the subjunctive form of sacar. In the sentences, claro que Raúl estudia mucho, that is something clear to us. That is something obvious. So we're saying it with the present indicative. So I hope this helps you understand the differences between when to use the subjunctive and when to use the indicative.